Good evening, everyone, and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm Damian Dressick, your host, and here's your other host,
Christina Fasonic, broadcasting live from Wheeling, West Virginia. Tonight, how's it going, Damian?
I'm going to go with fine, thank you.
Okay, that sounds good. So tonight, I am excited to announce our guest.
Wait. I'm slightly better than fine, thank you. I really should do a plug for this. I don't often do, but if you're interested.
No, go ahead.
I was on NPR this morning, so if you're interested in checking that out, please go to the website for WESA and check out their morning program, The Confluence, and you can hear an interview about my new book, Fables of the Deconstruction, and about the state of flash fiction in a complicated country.
Yes, I will actually post a link to it in this broadcast, so you'll be able to find it and go to it. And if you go to our Facebook page, the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia, you'll also be able to find a link to Damian's interview.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So on the show tonight.
Yeah, so I don't even remember now when I started tuning in and catching these guys. There's a lot of people out there now, I think, voices that are coming to the forefront that are talking about what's happening in Appalachia. We're some of those people, but these next guys came along even before we did. And so let me tell everybody a little bit about them. Appodlachia was started in December of 2019. Chuck and Big John were tired of the negative portrayal of Appalachia in the media and decided to start a podcast that pushed back against that narrative, which is something, WANA really believes in very much, providing a new and authentic voice for a region misunderstood and forgotten by most of the country. They're shrewd, witty, comical, sometimes irreverent, and always honest. All the things I love about listening to them. Big John is a native of Parkersburg, West Virginia. Shout out to the Mountain State, and still lives there to this day. Big John ran for public office in West Virginia's Eastern Panhandle in 2018 and has his finger on the pulse of real people in Appalachia just trying to get by. Chuck is a native of Pittsburgh, West Virginia also, and spent the first 22 years of his life living in the Mountain State. Chuck spent numerous years in advocacy and organizing in all parts of Tennessee. Unlike Big John, he is an Appalachian expat currently living in Northern Virginia. So let's bring on Big John and Chuck.
Hello.
Evening.
Hello.
Hi guys. I'm so glad to see you. This is fantastic. So tell us more about this. I know our regular viewers will want to know, I think all of us who are Appalachians, either because we were born here or because we moved here and started to sort of understand a little more about who people actually are that really live here, instead of the stereotypes that we see on TV, on the news, in blogs by some authors who we won't name. What were you thinking when you came up with this show? And I'll ask some more follow-ups. I know Damian will have some questions too, but what was on your mind?
I mean, were we thinking? That's a great question. I can start. I think, you mentioned in the intro that John had ran for office, and I helped manage his campaign. A lot of the issues that we talked about, we still wanted to talk about after that campaign ended, and we talk about just generally in our lives. And, we've been upset kind of our whole lives about the way that Appalachia has been portrayed, especially West Virginia, where we're from. And, we thought a great platform to do that would be a podcast. We didn't feel like there was really a podcast that was addressing that specific issue and was kind of getting into those issues. And so we took it upon ourselves, for better or worse. And I think what we found is that there are so many like-minded people like us who are from Appalachia, Maybe they still live there. Maybe like me, they've moved away, or maybe they're not even from Appalachia, but have an interest in the area or know people from there and want to learn more about it. Who have really come to enjoy the show and have found value in it, like we have. I think it's really important because there's so many voices out there who cast a negative light on Appalachia and talk about it in a way that puts it down rather than builds it up. And for every place in the country has its problems, has its issues, and Appalachia is not exclusive to that. But we feel like that we can provide a positive counter narrative and focus on the positives of Appalachia, focus on the improvements needed in Appalachia, and also just our own perspective of it.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that, Big John, or did he say it all?
This is our normal kind of like media routine. I always let Chuck tell that story. He's much better at it than I am.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a powerful story to tell. I think that you come to this place where you're like, someone needs to stand up and tell this bigger story of this area, instead of this very narrow perspective that we hear so often. And it's amazing that you guys just ran with that. And I think a podcast is such a powerful platform because people can carry it with them anywhere they go, where they
That's
have
actually what I was going to ask, Christina. Why a podcast? Out of all the things you could have done, and I'm not saying like all the things you could have, but why a podcast? And how has that worked out for y'all?
Well, they wouldn't put us on TV, so.
yeah. No, we wrote to several places. No one would put me on the air. A podcast, simply put. First off, Chuck and I live at the time when we started this. I was in the Eastern Panhandle, West Virginia, and Chuck was in Nashville. So we were 8 hours away from each other. So we knew that it had to be something that we could do remotely. YouTube is a little bit difficult, like when you're trying to just focus on essentially talking back and forth. So podcast made sense. And in the sense of us wanting to interview and talk to people around the region and not just make it about Chuck and I, really the most accessible thing, even for like our guests, is to be a guest on a podcast. It's just that it's easy to be honest, in terms of guests. And I would say it's currently working out. I will say it's currently working out. Now Chuck may disagree. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But it's been a lot of fun.
So you all aren't just on your podcast, but I have run into you on TikTok, right?
That is true. Yeah.
And of course you have your website. Well, where else are you out there in the lands, in the virtual landscape?
I would argue most people probably know us from Twitter. That's the platform that, I mean, Chuck and I, sorry, my dogs are going nuts. And Chuck and I, we always like think of like one-liners. And so it's real easy to pull out our phones and like type in the one-liner and tweet it. So Twitter has been probably our biggest platform, but we're on literally everything. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, any social media, we're there.
Yeah, I reshare you all the time on Facebook. And I actually think that when I encounter you the most on Facebook, it's because people have Facebooked your tweets.
Chuck, how do you feel about screenshot tweets doing well?
Look, I have a lot of thoughts about social media and how screenshotted tweets do better than anything else on Instagram. I'm just gonna hold my comments. So.
It's so true.
It's what works. So.
Yep. I mean, Chuck will spend hours on a graphic. Like he does really great graphics, and like it'll get like 10 likes, 9 shares, whatever. But then like will screenshot like a witty tweet or something and put it out there to have like 1,000 shares. Like, so it's always one of those things that like Chuck puts in a lot of time on those graphics. So we want those to go off.
Well, you even make T-shirts and other merchandise with this stuff on it. I think the cat lady one is probably my favorite one. Can you remind me of what that one is?
Yeah, so the shirt, which is, I guess I said it was a limited edition, although we still have it up, so I don't know. We'll probably just keep it up there. It says Appalachian childless cat lady. That's a reference to big friend of the show, JD Vance, who we have,
Big friend.
we've tussled back and forth with. Really not back and forth. He hasn't acknowledged us. That's fine. But he had made a comment that I guess society was on its downfall because, in his words, liberals were just a bunch of childless cat ladies, and he's kind of obsessed with fertility and repopulating the earth with like-minded people like him. So that's kind of where that came from. But
Well, whenever I think about him, I always imagine him trying to repopulate his wallet.
Well, and he's really good at that, admittedly, and that's something he could probably lecture on and be really successful in, especially in grifting. But what we really thought was, why is that a bad thing? You're childless, you have cats, and you're a lady. That none of that is bad. So we want to celebrate it, and that's what we did.
And there for a long time, I was a childless cat lady from Appalachia, and I was proud of that. I had 7 cats at one time, no children.
Hey,
There you
cats
go.
are a lot easier than kids, so
They are. You got a box and a bowl, and you're good to go.
Yeah, most of the time they just
Good
want to be
point.
left alone.
So this show started in 2019.
The end of 2019, December 2019.
So I sort of have a two-parter question. What do you think are some? I know you've done a large section on the opioid crisis. What do you guys think are some of the most important and urgent issues to address in Appalachia that you've talked about? And what do you think might be some things that are coming down the pike that you really want to talk about?
Well, I mean, you talked about the opioid. We did a 5-episode series on opioids where we brought in experts. We brought in people who had battled addiction and then had a triumphant story. One thing that we think often gets overlooked that we push a lot is lack of rural broadband across the region. A lot of that, to explain a lot of the things that go on in our region can easily be reconnected to not having access to the internet. And so we constantly are trying to push that and get it in front of as many people as possible.
Do you think then, this is something I've been arguing for a long time, that broadband should be a utility?
100%. It should have already, it should be regulated by every PSC across the country. There's no reason why it shouldn't, at this point, as much of a necessity that it is, be a utility. There's no point that it's not.
Yeah, I just heard something this morning about how there's all this money out there for people who are getting evicted from their homes because of COVID, but we've only used this much of it because people don't have access to it. And the person that was doing the reporting said that some of the complications are, if you don't have the internet, you can't even apply. If you don't have access, and we all know there's places, I live in Ohio County, West Virginia, and there's places here near Wheeling that they do not have a sustainable internet connection that would even allow them to apply for that, which just doesn't make sense in 2021.
I completely agree. It doesn't. And I think that shows sort of the disconnect between the people who are making the policy and implementing it and then the people that are benefiting from it. And I'm not going to throw everybody, obviously, in DC area under the bus because there's a ton of great people here. But I think that sometimes those barriers to entry are not realized by the people that are in charge of making the laws and delegating the money. And barriers to entry like that, we on here are taking it for granted, probably, right? We have our phones, we've got an stable internet connection. I mean, we're on a live stream, but there's so many people that don't, and that's a barrier to so many things. I think it's a broader conversation too about just economic development in general. I kind of hate the phrase economic development because it's not sexy and it's just kind of thrown around a lot, but it really is an important part of how Appalachia moves forward and doing so in a thoughtful way and in a way that honors the people that are working in the state. And, something we talk about a lot is labor and labor rights and unions, which is very important to both of us. And that's another thing that we really try to emphasize a lot because, I'll do a quick plug here for the people down in Matewan, West Virginia, who are putting on the Blair Mountain Centennial celebration, Blair 100. And, the modern day labor movement has its foundation in West Virginia. And so it's something that I think in the state's history and in the region's history is really important.
And we took center stage again not long ago with, the 55, whenever the teachers walked and did everything they could to fight for their rights. And I think that issue of economic development and all of these things, how can you organize as a people without good roads and good broadband? I mean, if you don't have internet and if you don't have transportation, those two things alone are major barriers to collective bargaining.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah.
So we talked about some serious things we've had on the show. I know though that you have some fun things on your show a lot too. What do you think is the most interesting or the funniest thing or some of the funniest things that you have worked through on the show or had on the show?
You want to take a stab at that one? I've got some
Sure.
ideas.
To me, the best, I think the funniest and the most rewarding thing in terms of kind of like recognizing other people would be the award show that we came up with. We essentially created an entire award show called the Appodlachia Appalachian Awards. We called it AAA. And
yes,
we thought as a it was real to us, but we thought everybody else would like take it as like this huge joke. And then all of a sudden we're getting like tens of thousands of votes, in this award show. We have people campaigning to win these awards.
Yeah.
Literally the person who won Appalachian Book of the Year put us in their book because they were so excited that they won. And so that's something I think we'll continue to do. And it was a lot of fun, especially it was fun to see people really out there trying to win these awards.
Well, I think that really shows the strength of your platform. That you could have that many people who are, one, aware of it, and two, took you guys seriously enough.
I entered.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I mean, it's just, it's one of those things like, I don't, and it's funny because I think randomly Chuck and I were talking, and I think I was watching like Jimmy Kimmel, and I was like, we should do an award show. And then it just like kind of came together.
Yeah, well, I'll own up to it. I was skeptical of the idea, and John pushed me over the edge. I'm glad that he did because it was like, well, no, I was like, I mean, are people gonna take it seriously? I was like, cool, no, but like it was right, and it was really cool. And this year it's gonna be even better. It's gonna be a banger. I think we're gonna have like might even have real plaques. Who knows for the winners?
Awesome.
Yeah. I really like that. I think we built a really cool community. Like on Patreon, we do Drunk Appalachian History, which is a good time.
That's
some of the
tomorrow.
guests that we've had have been just really, really fun to talk to. I'm thinking in particularly one of my favorites, which we did recently, was with Emily Calandrelli, otherwise known as Space Gal, who is just like this fountain of knowledge on space, on science, and it was such a really cool and fun conversation that we had that was sort of outside of our normal topical boundary, but then kind of not at the same time because she's also a native West Virginian. So that was really, really fun. And I think just in general, it's been so cool to like meet all these really interesting and accomplished people.
Excellent.
I think we also have to mention one other person because I think it is the funniest interview we've ever done, and that's Corey Forrester from the Well Read podcast. He's a comedian. You've probably seen him on Twitter. If you haven't seen that or heard that episode, you should because he is absolutely hilarious.
Right.
Excellent. What's coming up next, guys?
Oh boy.
Well, I mean, we're in a weird spot right now in terms of the podcast. Like the podcast is much bigger than we ever thought. So like we're doing like internal stuff where we're filing business stuff. We're becoming more legit than we've ever been. And I think really our big focus, and Chuck has taken the lead on this, is making sure, one, that we're getting, really great guests, and two, we're getting a diverse set of guests. We're getting people that come from all backgrounds, all, whatever. It doesn't matter. We want to recognize everybody. And that's really, I think, our focus going into the next year.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think we can probably share I would say a little bit. We're still doing a lot of scheduling too for now through the end of the year because it's coming up on us before we thought. We're actually almost on our 100th episode, which is wild. We've got the Kentucky poet laureate Crystal Wilkinson, who's going to be on our show.
Awesome.
Crystal is great. She's a terrific poet and a great person.
Phenomenal. I just finished her book actually today. And let's see who else we've got. Our next episode is going to feature a retired coal miner from Mate One talking about the Battle of Blair Mountain and kind of the future and the state of coal or the state of like labor in general. We're in talks to confirm a candidate for U.S. Senate in Ohio. We will see where we get with that. That's very exciting, but don't want to share too much right now. And it's not JD Vance, just to say that.
Dang it.
Should clarify.
I was hoping.
Yeah, I know he hasn't returned my emails. I don't know what gives.
You won't text
And
back.
then I think there's just going to be a lot more. We're still like hashing out the details. Like John mentioned, we've got a lot of administrative admin, whatever you want to call it, stuff that we're working through right now.
Bullshit.
So,
Well, and we know as an organization how overwhelming that can be, because it's like having 2 volunteer jobs at the same time, right? Doing the show, booking the guests, being on the show, and then setting up the 501 or whatever you're doing, and working with, like, we've got all these papers to fill out. What's our budget? Do we have a budget? Why do we have a budget? You know, all of these that WANA has gone through in our last 3
Yeah,
or 4
the retinal scam we need to do to cash a $40 check.
PayPal requires that now. I mean, my God.
True.
Yeah, we
Yes.
were winging it for the vast majority of our existence, and now that we're starting to like develop it and make a little bit of money for the show and stuff, now it's like, oh shoot, we've got to actually like figure this out. Wow.
It's not just for beer runs anymore, right?
Yeah, no more. No more.
Well, thanks so much, guys. I really love talking to y'all.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This has been
Thanks
great.
for having us.
Yeah, this is so fun. I was so excited when you said yes, you would come on, because I know how busy you are. And one thing I think we can all say is that we're all grateful for guests who give us their time in media, in podcasts and live streams and all of this, because we couldn't exist without that generosity and your generosity as well. So thank you so much for being on.
I'm very excited about this retired miner Madawan episode. This is very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good conversation.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
All right. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, thanks
before
for
we
having
go
us.
tonight, though, we have a very short announcement.
Yeah, why don't we pull these folks off, let them get back to their lives.
Yes, we can do that. See
Thanks.
everybody later. Thank you so much
Thanks
for
a lot.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Oops. So we do have
An announcement that demonstrates the resilience of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia.
That's a very good way of putting it. So all of you watching know that there's still an epidemic happening, a pandemic happening with COVID-19, and now with the Delta variant, children going back to school. We kept hearing from people who were going to present at and attend our annual conference at Ogilvy Park in Wheeling, West Virginia, September 10th through the 12th, that they could not make it because they were concerned about the virus. And we made a decision as an advisory board, as a group of people, to turn that into an opportunity. So several of you that are listening now or watching now had reached out to us saying, I hope you go virtual with your conference like you did last year, because I enjoyed it and wanted to attend it. And so rather than cancel the entire conference, we're just moving our programming from face-to-face to virtual.
So we will still have writing contests. We will still have our open mic hosted on StreamYard. We will still have keynote speakers, and we will still have many excellent presentations. At least, Christina, is it at least more than 15? Is that right?
Absolutely, yes. And everything from readings to workshops to panel presentations and discussions. And the writing contest will definitely be in place. We were able to figure out cool ways to do that. So we know that a lot of you are probably Zoomed out, videoed out, all of those things. But we think we found a way for us to learn together, work on our writing together, and be together in a safe way. But we will certainly miss seeing everybody in September in person.
And we'll provide more details next week about the
Absolutely.
virtual event.
Yeah, watch our Facebook page and certainly watch your email if you subscribe to our emails. And we'll have a full program with clickable things and stuff that you can do when we get closer to the date. So,
And one thing that's important, I want to mention this, is that our conference is free for WANA members.
yes, it's free to all WANA members, and we're excited about being able to do that. So thank you all so much for watching tonight. And we will have more information coming to you soon, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Have a great week, everybody.
See you later, everyone.
Thanks for tuning
Good night.
in.